All right, we got the second take. We got try number two because the earlier take didn't record. We got glove talk. Me with my boy Jose.
Hey, it's fine, man. And listen, I'm never gonna run out of stuff to talk about when it comes to this great sport. So we'll be
All
here
right.
for
So what this is gonna be basically we're gonna talk about MMA, the fights last night, and the fights coming up in the next card and big MMA news.
Basically, I get to clown Derek Lewis for now, so
So
I'll take
yeah,
it.
they gotta stop having Derek Lewis be like pushing these fight night cards because he's just not that big of a draw. I don't even think he's a co-main anymore. I think he needs to be like a start of a main card type of fighter, something like that.
He is the Derek Brunson of the heavyweight division. Yep,
Nah, I'd give Derek Brunson a little more.
gatekeeper.
I'd give Derek Brunson a little more props because Derek Brunson can beat like some of the top like 15 guys. Let's be honest. By
I
just
mean,
wrestling them.
yeah, the Derek Lewis knocked out Curtis Blades, so
But if they rematch, I think Curtis Blades wins
oh
that
yeah,
fight.
oh yeah,
But going on to the first fight, we got early prelims. This is one of the only fights in the prelims I was excited for. Was the Tatsuro Tara versus Jesus Aguilar. Tara
bro.
with the what was that like a hybrid triangle armbar?
Yeah, yeah, bro. Tyra's a monster. He's been hyped up as a really solid prospect for the UFC. I mean, dude, you look at these stats, like he man had 5 strikes, bro. Three almost 4 minutes of control, one takedown, 2 sub attempts, and just like hot knife through butter.
What is his
To be
record
able to
now?
do it
What he's
that
like
quick.
13-0 now.
Yep. Yeah, man. 13-0 and he's super young. I mean, it
What is it?
just
What is his submission like? What is his finish rate? Is it like all finishes?
I don't think it's all finishes. I mean, either way, like Tyra has been
It's a pretty good record. The finishes.
for how young he is, man. I mean, to find a guy like that, it's just he's got 10 finishes in 13 fights at what is it, 23 years old. That's insane.
Look like a K-pop star.
And the thing is, Japan's kind of started to make a rise again, and that was part of what this card was the road to the UFC thing, kind of putting Japan, Singapore, um, South Korea, those countries kind of back on the map. And I think it's deserving, man. Listen, Japan, rich history, martial arts. We need good Japanese fighters in the sport.
And
I think mixed martial arts.
they're building that facility over there. They're building a
Yep,
facility in
yep,
Australia
yep,
too, right?
yep,
So they're probably
yep.
just trying to hit that side of the world and Abu Dhabi as well. So they're just trying to, increase the market, which I think
Right, right.
that's where MMA has the big advantage over these other sports. I think they just have more appeal globally because everywhere, every country's had to fight. So
Right. Well, I think the difference is too, like for the NBA, for example, which has the biggest reach outside of soccer and in terms of one league, like the NBA. Yes, they have big TV deals in other countries, but in terms of getting players from those countries to play, it's tough when you have a 5-on-5 compared to MMA, where dude, it's anybody versus anybody,
yeah,
right? You can find like Francis Ngannou came from literally digging sand in Africa to going to France to becoming a world champion. I mean, that's the beauty of the sport, man. The reach never ends. And I think what they're doing, opening those facilities, is great. I mean, look at China. We got Wei Li coming out and all that. I love it. I love it, man.
and then another big thing that happened last night was that Herb Dean stoppage. Like this is the thing I always like say about Herb Dean. Like he's always like so indecisive with stopping fights. He's like always in the middle. He's like you gotta either just stop the fight or let the fight go on. You can't be in these situations where you're in and out. Then you get the situations where you get a fighter hurt and stuff like that.
Two things come to mind
Smoking that Herb Dean
when I
pack.
think of Herb Dean. The one we posted on our page, the Herbert versus Trinaldo fight, and then the Kai Kara France versus what's his face? You know what I'm talking about, the one with the little bun. When Kai Kara France had him knocked out, Herb was like, "Nah, hits him one more time. Okay, now you're done." Like, it, listen, man,
Who the Sean O'Malley fight? Almeida.
that
I think that was
was
Herzog actually.
yeah,
Jason
yeah.
Herzog. So I guess
hmm
that wasn't Herb Dean. So
But the thing with Herb is, man, like it used to be Mario Yamasaki getting the back calls. And before him, it was Eve Levine. And before him, it was Steve Mazzagatti. It just sucks. It's got to be Herb now, man. I thought Herb would have been the one to kind of like, not. Cause you expect this out of like Dan Miragliotta and guys like that, but nah, man, Herb was always like the gold standard. Now it's just, I don't know, man. I think, listen, his head might not be in it. Who knows? Either way, when you're if you're making bad decisions as someone who's entrusted with the safety of the fighters and all that, it might be time for him to like, hey, work less. Honestly.
Only do like the big pay-per-view fights. Does he
Mm-hmm.
work a lot of?
Exactly.
Does he work in other industries or other organizations like these other refs do? Like, does he do like the slap? Does he do like Bellator? Does he do like stuff like that?
I don't think he does Bellator. I don't think so. Which is rare because a lot of these guys like Mark Goddard and that kind of get shared and stuff. Like Beltron too. Like no, I think Herb only does UFC from what I've seen. Um,
Mm.
I may be wrong on that, but and the thing is with Bellator, that's the issue with commissioning and refs and stuff is these guys got to fly out to Florida, fly out to Abu Dhabi, fly out to all these places to ref fights. It's kind of what happened with the judging controversy a few cards ago, where it's like we can't have people dictating these fights. They got to fly across country or fly out of the country,
Hmm.
week in, week out, all that stuff. So what do you do? Do you add more refs? Do you have a better way to police refs and what they do? It's a tough discussion because there's not really a good answer to.
I don't really think it's that big of a problem yet right now. So I think once
No, roughing isn't. Judging is though.
judging is,
Judging
yeah.
is. Last night, we'll get to the Duho Choi fight. Judging's a problem in this sport.
So we released our picks on our Instagram for our fight, but this is like one of those mid cards where like these fights are like super close, and none of these fighters really like there's different levels, but these fighters are all kind of like in the same level. So a lot of our picks are actually wrong. I think on the first fight, the Kinoshita fight versus Adam Fugit, I think what we both said
No, you
Kinoshita.
had you had Fuji. I had Kinoshita, and bruh, oh my gosh, man. Kinoshita, but when he got pushed up against the cage on the first exchange, you could tell his face. He knew he was in trouble.
Yeah,
Like man was getting elbowed from Mount. Like it was. Listen, he's young. He can come back, bro. But man, he got taken to school.
Adam Fugit's style is just like wild. Like he just has a wild style. Like
Yeah.
no defense, come forward, like aggressive. Then the next fight we had Du Choi versus Kyle Nelson. I had Kyle Nelson winning the fight. I thought he was going to utilize more leg kicks, but because he has some killer leg kicks, but he didn't really. I mean, he threw a couple.
So the interesting thing about this fight, so Nelson had 5 takedowns to Duho Choi zero, but most of the takedowns were nullified by Choi. Um, Control time, Nelson had a minute 30 more, but he didn't really do much damage with his control time. In fact, Nelson was the one that ended up bleeding, headbutt or not. You look at the strikes, Duo Choi 79 to 39 total strikes, 50 significant strikes to 20 significant strikes, more leg kicks, more. The only thing he was close was head strike. So for me, it was a matter of I think without the headbutt, I think Duho Choi gets that decision. Um, to the ref that scored it 29-27, don't I don't know what he was watching. I think everybody else had it right.
One of those other faded judges calls.
Yeah, yeah, and I think everybody else had it right where 28-28 with a 1 point deduction is probably the way to go. I think without that headbutt penalty, Duho Choi wins it. He was winning the exchanges on the feet. He was definitely, other than the first round when he got wobbled and knocked down by Nelson. I mean, Duho Choi was out of the octagon for 3 years and he looked like he didn't miss a beat in my opinion. But hey, they both. I think in a way they both came out winning from this. Both guys didn't look bad
Yeah.
necessarily. Just happens.
Yeah, it was just another one of those fights where the guys are just evenly matched. Like, you know. And then we had the Marcin Tyburo versus the Ivanov fight. I'll say this: Tyburo, he's not the best fighter, but I always respect anybody who helped take Greg Hardy out of the UFC. I have respect for
Yeah,
anybody for that.
yeah. Which also begs the question: what was Ivanov doing? Oh my goodness, man! Like
I don't know. I felt like
it.
I don't know. This fight was as close. I feel like whoever was third round, Tyburo. I don't know.
Listen, stats wise, man, it was a lot less close than I thought. Honestly, I mean,
It was because there wasn't
Tybura.
just a lot going on. It was one of those fights that was more close because there wasn't a lot going on.
Right. I think fights like that where you don't have many exchanges, but the ones that happen kind of end up mattering, especially 3 round fights. This is what happens. It wasn't impressive. Both guys did not impress me at all. Um, Listen, it's a number 10 heavyweight fighter versus number 15 heavyweight fighter. I didn't expect much, but yeah, it happened.
Then we had the Devin Clark junk fight, which Devin Clark was talking about how he's gonna come out, be more aggressive, and throw more, but he really didn't throw that much.
Okay, this is what Devin Clark meant by being more aggressive. Like, okay, fight starts, he throws himself into takedowns. Cool, dude. He has the takedown. He takes him down, and then he gets swept, and he ends up on the bottom. That's I think Devin Clark's issue before was he wasn't aggressive enough. Um, and the IQ, the decisions weren't there. Now it's he's almost too aggressive, where he's putting himself in positions where a fighter better than Jung knocks him out, in my opinion, because he was putting himself in some very vulnerable positions in the fight. I mean, Jung had more control time than Clark in the fight, and you wouldn't think it watching the
I
fight.
mean, John had a couple. He had a couple opportunities to win the fight. He had a couple submission opportunities. I think
Yeah,
he had
and
his
so did
back. He
Clark.
had back
Clark,
control.
yeah,
He could have got a rear naked choke, but he was too high.
yep.
His hip, it wasn't really hip to hip. It was kind of higher than the hips, and he got slid
Yeah,
off.
and Clark had opportunities to win as well and didn't take them. So I mean, listen, he's 8-7 in the UFC now. Devin Clark is. All his losses come in the UFC. Um, some of his losses have been worse than others in terms of like the names he's lost to. I think he's just gonna keep being one of those mid card guys until he shows the different. Um, I wasn't impressed by the fight. I wasn't. It was very sloppy technique from both guys. It is what it is. Again, like I said, this card, like you were talking about, this card is one of those mid cards, very thin card for this to be a co-main event.
And I swear this like not. I feel like the last like not like this year, but like the last like 6 or 8 months, we've been having a lot of mid fight night cards. Like the pay per
Mm-hmm.
views, I'd say they've been hidden. Like the pay per views are spot on most time. A lot of these fight night cards sometimes are just like Derek
I
Lewis.
think the last good fight night was Danhagen versus Song Yadong. Honestly,
Yeah, and then something. Then always too when it's a good fight night main card, like an injury always happens. Like you look at Brian
yep.
Ortega versus Yair or something like that. Like something crazy always
Hmm.
happens. So I don't know what they're gonna do. I mean, they're getting more and more fighters, so it's gonna get more and more entertaining. But
I think they need to. I get it. They have the Apex. They need to get more fights out of the Apex. I think when fighters have a crowd behind them and stuff, it just produces a better card. In my opinion. I mean, dude, Cheeto Vera, Dominic Cruz, um, is one of those examples. Dude, that whole card from top to bottom was so good, and it was because you could market like this card with all the Asian fighters on it. Do this fight night in Japan. Do it in Japan. This card would have produced so much better,
yeah,
money
they
wise.
support
The
fighting no matter
fighters,
the name. They just like fighting
right?
in Japan.
And the fighters would have felt more emotionally into it. I think when you put the fighters in front of an empty gym, where it's just the coaches yelling and everybody hears it, everybody hears the commentary yelling. It's just, listen, this was bred out of necessity during COVID. I get that, and I appreciate Dana for doing that, but it's wearing out, man, with cards like this. Like, you know, even the Sandhagen Song Yadong fight was a great fight. It deserved a crowd.
Yeah.
That's the problem I have with the Apex.
Then we had the main event fight. We had Derek Lewis versus Spivak. I had Spivak winning this fight. I think you had Spivak winning the fight as well. Uh,
Oh, I had to.
but he got
I
the one
had
with
to.
the submission I like the most available submission I think in the UFC is the head and arm choke. Um,
That gift wrap into arm triangle every time. Every time. If you got a guy in side control, they will get desperate if they don't know how to square up and slide their knees under your body. They're just gonna flail with their arm.
yeah,
Boom, arm triangle every time. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. I don't know what Derek Lewis's credentials are in grappling. At his gym, what his coaches gave him. But he needs to go back to white belt if he's above white belt. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's bad. He threw 3 strikes and landed 0. This man is the most notorious knockout artist in UFC history and got taken down 6 times in 3 minutes. Like it was getting ragdoll too. That little getting the arm, dropping him, like Listen, Spivak impressed me. I think yes, Derek Lewis isn't the most technically gifted fighter, but to ragdoll a guy that big, it's impressive.
So what do you think is next for Derek Lewis then? Think he
You know
goes?
my thoughts
Think
on
he needs
that.
to go to PFL and try to get the bag?
Listen, him and Francis in PFL. It's the best they're gonna do. Him and Francis in PFL, bro. That's the listen. I'm sorry. Derek Lewis. You got to market him as like a freak show fight, if that makes sense. Where it's like this guy's strength is knockouts. We're gonna have him fight for knockouts and stuff. I don't know. Try boxing. Fight Deontay Wilder. I don't know. I think Derek Lewis in the
He does
UFC. The
not.
options are very limited
He
now.
does not have the
Very
cardio
limited
to
now.
do any boxing.
He doesn't have much to do much. His last 3 or 4 UFC fights, he's looked very very bad. Um, I don't know, bro. Because whether okay, down the list, Tai Tuivasa. Yes, he was in there for most of the fight, and then Tai just put him to sleep.
Yeah,
Surreal
I don't
Gone.
think Derek Lewis is the same Derek Lewis who fight Tai Tuivasa anyway.
No, no. And Surreal Gone made sure of that too. His last fight against Pavlovich, was it? Or something like that. It wasn't
Yeah,
Pavlovich. It was
no, it was the
yeah,
other guy.
yeah. It was
Yeah, it
the
was
other guy.
Popovich. It was Popovich.
Yeah. Again, put him to sleep. Like just and
But
then
then
everybody
it's
says,
weird
oh,
though,
early,
because then
early,
he could beat a guy like he could beat Dawkins though. Like he could beat a guy like
yeah,
Dawkins.
or purse blades. You know, and so and the thing is, people are like, oh, that the last one was an early stoppage. I'm like, listen, he wasn't recovering from the position he was in. He just wasn't. I mean, and it that's the problem. He lets himself get in these positions for all the talent he has with his hands or whatever. It's just, dude, if your grappling's not there, it's not there. Go do something that's just hands. Go do PFL. Go do bare knuckle. Go do bare knuckle.
Oh
Go
yeah,
do bare
bare knuckle.
knuckle.
Oh yeah, bare knuckle.
Yeah, let Jerry lose. Bro, let Jerry lose make his bag in Florida doing bare knuckle. Sorry, like who else is he gonna fight in the UFC? He can't drop down to a prelim fighter. His name doesn't allow that. It's just I don't know, he's not a main card guy, in my opinion. So I don't know what to do.
I mean, they push him like he's the main card guy over and over again. I'm tired of seeing it. Honestly, like I wasn't even excited to watch like Derek Lewis fight this time or
Mm-hmm.
the last time.
Oh, I agree.
And then so we got to talk about the pound for pound card coming up, the big one. Islam Makhachev, Alexander Volkanovski in Perth.
I'm looking at this card and oh my gosh, man.
I think
Such a good card.
scale of 1 to 10.
I think they still got some fights they gotta make, or they gotta put some opponents in here. I see one they do. Um, but right now, I'd give this a 8 out of 10. I think they're not promoting it right. I think it's just one of the worst promoted cards they've had in a while. But I think talent wise, other than the top on Parker Porter fight, the talent's there for this card.
I think I'll give it a 7.
Yeah.
Just because I think it could be a little better. I think the co-main could be better. Um, and some of the early prelims are kind of mid. So um, the exciting fights in this card, probably I like Jamie.
Oh,
I like Jamie Malarkey. He's one of my favorite fighters. I
I'm
like.
looking at the co-main. This man Josh Emmett is 5'6", fighting 5'11" Yair Rodriguez.
I mean, 5'11" is kind of slacking too.
Yeah,
For
listen,
us.
hey, Bolt's 5'6", fighting 5'10" Islam, and he's got a longer reach in Islam too. So I mean,
And then we got one of our favorite fighters too, Tyson Pedro.
Tyson Pedro,
I'm
man,
calling it right now. If Tyson Pedro wins, set up the Tyson Pedro versus Carlos Oberg fight.
and listen, it's tough because Tyson Pedro was injured for so long, but everybody's seen since he's come back. He's nasty, man. He is very nasty. Trains with Tai Tuivasa, like he's good. He's really good.
Then we got our boy Jimmy Crute versus Alonzo Menifield. Alonzo Menifield is one of those corny UFC guys. Jimmy Crute.
I don't know what to think of Alonzo Menifield, man. Jimmy Crute's good. Jimmy Crute's only issues have been fighting Jamal, which other than Paul Craig, no one's been able to figure that out. And then when his leg got got broken against Anthony Smith, which he couldn't do much about that either. So listen, I like Jimmy. Jimmy Crute's still young. I don't know, especially fighting in front of that Aussie crowd, man. He's gonna want
It's gonna
that
be fun,
bad.
man. Bro, Australian guys come different, bro. Sorry.
He's gonna want that bad. I just and Menifield, dude, like again, built like Superman, doesn't know how to use it all, in my opinion. So I gotta go with Jimmy Crute, man.
Then we got the yeah, I'm gonna go Jimmy Cook for that. Then we got Justin Taffa versus Parker Porter. Why do they feel like I feel like the UFC always feel like they need to just throw like a heavyweight fight into the main card, like even if it's the mid fight. Like they're like, oh, we need a
Justin
heavyweight
Tafa's
fight.
5-3.
We need a heavyweight fight.
This man is 5-3. I again, I don't know why we put a guy that's 5-3 into the main card. Like he has a loss
Above Jimmy Crute.
above Jimmy Crute and Della Madonna as well.
Well, actually,
Like
he fights over them, I think. Oh, you're talking about
no. Oh, I know. Yeah, yeah.
he
You're right.
fights after
You're
them.
right. I mean, he has lost. The only legitimate loss to a top guy is a loss to Carlos Felipe for Justin Tafa. Other than that, he lost to Vanderaa, who's 12-10, and Jorgen De Castro. So listen, nothing against Justin Tafa, big guy. I never doubt these Aussie guys. It's just a bad look to put him this high up over Tyson Pedro as well, man. I think Bukakis and Tyson Pedro earned that spot over Tafa and
Yeah,
Porter, to be honest. But
I agree with that.
listen, I'm not Hunter Campbell. I'm not Dana White. That's their job.
We got one of our other favorite fighters, Jack Della. How you say his last name? Madela,
Della Maddalena.
Madalena. Where's Randy Brown?
Della
I got.
Maddalena, yeah.
I like Randy Brown. He's a good fighter, but I got Jack for that fight.
Jack's a dog, and I don't know, man. Randy, he's tall and long, which is exactly why I won't take him. Because fighters that are that freakishly athletic at 170 don't turn out well. Example, Neil Magny against Gilbert Burns, or Neil Magny his whole career. They'll look good in flashes, but it's just almost like they're too big for their
Yeah,
for their class.
thing about Randy Brown is he's only like he doesn't string together like full rounds of being great. He only does like minutes at a time. So
Mm-hmm.
then we got the co-main. We got Yair versus Josh Emmett. I don't know why this is the interim title belt. This has really just been a contender fight. Um, this fight really don't. I mean, it's a good fight, but it's not really an exciting fight.
I think making this an interim title fight. I listen. I know Holloway's fought 3 times for the title against Volk. I know, but having an interim title fight without Max Holloway, it doesn't seem right.
Calvin Kattar, who actually I think beat Josh Emmett.
Yeah, yep. Calvin Kattar. I know Ortega's injured. Ortega has a say in that too, in my opinion. Because at the end of the day, I think Ortega smokes Josh Emmett. I don't know about Rodriguez, but I know he smokes Josh Emmett. And I know that Holloway smokes both of these guys. Or already did in
He,
Yair.
well, he didn't really smoke Yair.
And he smoked, but
Let's
you
be
know what I
honest.
mean. He did the Holloway. He just eats every shot and like just hits you even harder. And
Yeah,
I think Josh Emmett fighting a guy like Holloway, that's not no bueno. You know,
yeah. I think if it goes to decision, I think Yair wins. If somebody finishes somebody, I think Yair wins. So I got Yair in that fight.
I think Yair's gonna keep it to a point where Emmett can't even get close to do takedowns. I think Yair's very good at distance management.
Them kicks are just nasty. Like I
He
think
is he's a world class kickboxer, bro.
Giga, and Fiziev probably have like the best kicks I think in the
Hmm.
UFC.
I agree. I agree. I think Yair's gonna. And the thing is, I think Yair's long overdue for a shot at the title. I think his big is my knock on him for that though is he didn't fight during COVID,
Yeah,
during that whole COVID period. I think if he gets one or if he would have gotten 1 or 2 fights in there, probably it's a fighting Holloway or Volkanovski. But hey, it is what it is.
honestly, that Yair versus Volk fight is actually I think that would actually be interesting. I would like that
Yeah,
fight.
but the question is, as we go into the next fight, if Volk wins this, does he ever go back down to 145?
Yeah, because there's so many fights at lightweight.
Like
There's so many fights.
he can sell a Beneil fight. He can sell a Poirier fight.
Poirier fight.
He can sell a Oliveira fight.
Gaethje fight.
He can sell a Gaethje fight.
Fiziev fight.
He can sell a Fiziev. He can sell all these. If AJ McKee ever decides to make the jump from Bellator to UFC, Volkanovski can sell that fight. Like if Chandler gets a title shot at 55, like you got a guy Volkanovski where there's more marketable fights for him at 55 than at 45.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're better matchups, because a lot of these guys are pretty big at 55. But if he can beat Islam, too, he might get Habib out of retirement if he beats Islam. Honestly,
I don't see that happening.
listen. I know Habib said he stepped away or whatever, but I mean, if he beats Islam and he does it bad enough, man, who knows? It took Cejudo 3 years and he came back. You know, I mean, you never know with these guys. I think Volk, if there's one person equipped to beat Islam Makhachev, it's Volkanovski. You're talking about a guy in Volkanovski who, for all intents and purposes, is one of the greatest UFC champions. Uh, he's not in the rush. He's not in the Mount Rushmore yet, but he's up there as top 10.
If he wins in this fight, he probably goes like probably top five. Maybe he gets in
Listen,
there.
he's not Jose Aldo, but he's past Holloway. I'm gonna leave it at that. Because you look at it, Holloway fought guys like Frankie Edgar and all that in his defense. There's nothing against him. He took the fights. But Volkanovski's fought Ortega. He beat Holloway 3 times. I must say it again for everybody listening. He beat Holloway 3 times. The second one, he beat Holloway. I know
No,
people say it's different.
I think he won the second one.
I gave it to Volk because the thing is, the championship rounds, man, he put it on Holloway.
But if
And
you go
then
into it
you,
knowing that he was injured and all these other things, then you gotta put that in
yeah.
there.
And so the thing with that is Volkanovski, talent wise too, he can grapple. He's a very underrated grappler. Trains with Craig Jones, trains at City Kickboxing. He's very good under pressure. He's a terrific striker. Just distance management. His jab is one of the best the sport's ever seen, in my opinion. It's just he's got these meat claw hands, just always hitting your nose, hitting your nose, like, and you can't stop him. He has a 71, he has a 71.5 inch reach at 5'6". That's insane. That is insane. And the
That's
man
what I
walks
think he
around at
catches
about,
most people off guard. Is his
yeah,
reach.
he walks around at about 185 as well. He cuts about 40 pounds for a fight. Like he's just a ton of muscle on there. I think for Islam, like this might be a bigger challenge than Oliveira, honestly. Because Oliveira going into the Islam fight, you can tell mentally he was checked out by the time he got to the octagon.
I don't think he was checked out. I just think he just played into his hands too much. Like he's like, all right, you want to play, you want to come into my guard, go ahead. I'm like, bro,
Well,
this
I
is
say that because Oliveira talked about how he felt like he kind of wasn't there for that fight, and you could see it. Like it's just Oliveira's a slow starter, this, that, whatever. Beside the point, I think Volkanovski just brings a tool set that Islam hasn't seen in the octagon. I think he can neutralize it? Yeah, I think Islam has the tools for it. But Volkanovski's been there. Volkanovski's done the 5 round fights. Volkanovski's been to the point of almost tapping and losing his title and fought through it. This is Islam's time to shine. The pressure's on Islam Makhachev. If Volkanovski loses, he's still the second greatest featherweight of all time, and he goes back down defensive. If he wins, Islam Makhachev is going to get looked at as a flash in the pan until he proves himself. Especially in a division like lightweight, if Islam loses, he's not getting a rematch for a while. You can't have him skip Beneil. You can't have him skip Dustin. You can't have him skip all these guys that are in line for the title.
I don't know. For me, this fight is like 50-50. Like, I think if it goes to decision, Volk wins, and if I see somebody finishing somebody, I think Islam wins. So for me, that's 50-50. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with the finish. If there's one person going for a finish this fight, it's Islam. If there's one person that knows how to grind out a 5 round fight, it's Volkanovski.
But that's the
So
thing. I don't know if he gets it to 5 rounds. It's tough, bro.
it is, but I think his striking is gonna negate Islam's wrestling, which is tough to do. And Islam's a southpaw, and his striking's no joke either. But I mean, Volkanovski stood in there with Ortega and Holloway. Those are two huge guys. About Makhachev's size and build when it comes to like striking and all that. And grappling wise, listen, that one I trust in Volk's takedown defense. I'm not saying he won't get taken down, but for how big he is and strong he is, it's gonna be tough for Machav to keep him down.
People probably forget. They need to remember that Max Holloway fought Poirier at lightweight. So Volk's been in there with guys who have fought at lightweight, and that was a pretty
Hmm.
good fight. Max did pretty good against Dustin. I mean, Dustin won, but it
Right,
wasn't like he got destroyed. So
right.
just another point to make with the size difference. It's really not. He's played rugby for a couple years too, so
And the thing is with size difference in MMA, and I put quotation marks around it, is people forget like these guys cut weight. By the time fight night hits, most of these guys, if they're built like Volkanovski, they take care of their bodies, do all that. It's muscle. They're putting on 20, 25 pounds of muscle back with the water being saturated back on. So he's gonna come in heavy for this fight, which is good for him. I think one of Volk's struggles was just cutting down to 45. Not that he struggled to make the weight, it's just your body gets sapped of all the energy during that last week of cutting weight. I think for him it's gonna be an easier weight cut. I think you're gonna see a much healthier looking Volkanovski. And I think for Makhachev, I don't know if he. This sounds weird if you think about it.
actually, if you think about it, nobody's talking about this. That Islam's gonna have to go through a weight cut. He's gonna have to look dehydrated on scale. Volk is probably gonna come in looking. I mean, he's gonna be a little cut, but he's probably gonna come in and look pretty healthy.
I'm gonna put something out there because I could see it. I think Volk comes into this fight heavier than Makhachev on fight night. I think he
Ooh, that's
comes
a
in
hot take.
heavier. I think he comes because the thing is Makhachev cuts less weight than Volkanovski. He doesn't walk around at like 185, 190. He stays pretty close to that 155. Like he goes around 170, 170. You know, Volk is. I think Volk's gonna come in heavier. I think Volk having to cut less weight, he's just gonna pack on muscle for this one. Which if he does that, you're talking about a guy that
I mean,
used
you
to play
watch his little
rugby.
YouTube videos. He's just eating steak.
Yeah, and
Looking
then
at his
listen,
face.
he's a former rugby player professionally. He doesn't have to like learn how to use his body when he gets bigger, kind of like John Jones moving up to heavyweight. Like he knows how to use his body in a bigger stage, like bigger weight class. I don't know. There's a lot of that's the beauty of mixed martial arts. It's all the variables that go into a fight like this that you have to think. Whether it's an injury, whether it's this. This one's a toss up. I think it's gonna be a good fight. I wish the UFC promoted it better. This card has been promoted horribly. To the point where I even forgot this card was happening. To be honest, like I knew it was happening. I didn't know it was happening this soon, but I know they got all their eggs in the basket in the Izzy rematch.
So, what do you have for fight of the night?
So fight of the night, I'm not gonna give it to Volk Islam. I don't think it'll be a fight. I think Madeline and Randy Brown
Yeah,
get
I was
that.
about to say
Yeah,
yeah. Madeline versus Randy Brown,
yeah. I think that. Yeah, that one or Yair. To be honest.
or Jamie Malarkey.
Yeah.
First, I don't know who the guy he's fighting. Francisco Prado. Got to see a picture. I don't know the guy he's fighting. Oh, it's his debut. He's fighting the guy who's 0-0-0. What?
No, he's 11-0. He's
Oh,
debuting in the UFC. Argentinian guy, 20 years old. Kind of 20-year-old. Um, guy was a champ in his previous promotion, Samurai Fight House. Um, I mean, again, 11-0. Looks good. Not really much big names. Again, young guy. I think it's a good fight to give Malarkey in his home
yeah.
country.
Think about Malarkey. He's just gotta tuck that chin, bro. He just hangs his chin too high up in the air.
Now that we're done with this card, it is time to acknowledge that the great Fedor Emelianenko has retired from mixed martial arts.
What do you feel about what Dana said?
Bro, I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that. Listen, Fedor fought great guys in Pride. Fedor also fought absolute trash cans in Pride. Um, I think for Fedor Emelianenko, uh, he's not the GOAT. That's number one. He's not the GOAT. People need to stop that. Two, bro, him not coming to the UFC is it's funny to me. Like he had Dana offered all the money in the world. His manager, who Dana calls Vadummy, which was Vadim, whatever his name is, messed up the deal. They were gonna do the Lesnar Emelianenko fight. Never happened. Fedor then gets beat in Strikeforce by Fabricio Verdum, which was beautiful. That I think for Fedor, it's he lived off the legacy of Pride, but then when the Pride match fixing scandals came out and stuff, it kind of took away from. Yeah, Fedor did a lot for mixed martial arts. We should be thankful for that. He's one of the greatest of all time. I just think that the more time goes on, the more you kind of see through the legend of Fedor as not being as great as people made it out to be. You know, and I think doing a send off fight for a world title against Ryan Bader, Ryan Bader was gonna eat him up like he did Lesnar.
And I think Bellator needs to stop, like, if they want to grow at the promotion, they need to stop trying to, like, let's get, like, I don't know. They need to develop their own fighters like how the UFC does and bring in some young talent like AJ
Mm-hmm.
McKee and stuff like that. Like the AJ McKee route is the best route to go versus bringing in these older fighters, these legends, and trying to have them. Let's just set up a legend versus a legend, give them a title fight.
Well, that was the issue the UFC had for a bit after the Pride merger was the fact that kind of what Bellator's going on now, where you have a few young guys that you built at home that you build around, which whether it was the Pitbull brothers, Michael Chandler, AJ McKee, like guys that came up to the organization. But then you have a mix of just fossils fighting for the. That was the problem that the UFC had until they kind of filtered out Vanderlei Silvas of the world and all that. Dude, because some of the guys that Bellator has fighting right now, like other than Yoel Romero, nobody in their 40s should be fighting Bellator. I'm gonna be honest, no other than Yoel, man. And
Yoel off the TRT.
yeah, yeah, man. And the issue is, it's like you can't expect to grow. I think at this point, PFL is more enjoyable to watch than Bellator. To be honest, like they got young guys there, they got really good guys as well. Bellator is just hit or miss, man. I watched a couple Bellator cards, and outside the main and co-main event, it was horrible to watch. You have to promote well, you have to build the talent, and they lose talent a lot. They lose a lot of talent now, not even just to the UFC anymore. It's just PFL. PFL's been taking a lot of their guys and stuff. So I don't know, man. Listen, Bellator, and it's not like Bellator's broke. People have this concept that Bellator is the little brother. That's not true. Bellator has backing from CBS Viacom. They have backing from a multi-billion-dollar broadcasting company. So Bellator has no excuse to not have fighters and not have talent on their roster. So I mean, it's like you're saying they need to build their roster, man. It's an issue.
Turn. They got the tough announcement for Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. People were complaining on Twitter. I seen people were complaining about saying that should have been Conor versus T. Ferg, but I think the Michael Chandler one was the one to make.
Okay. All right. First off, to all you out there that wanted T-Ford coaching this, bro, the man thought he had a microchip plan in his leg. I don't. No, thank. No, no. Let's stop. Listen, listen. We're not doing this, bro. Because I'm gonna tell you
T.
right.
Ferg at 170 though. T. Ferg at 170
Oh,
though.
that's
That's
great.
big.
Imagine T-Ford trying to coach his team. He be having to doing stress balls, standing on one leg, bro, like channeling some chi or something. Like no, no. I
Come on, bro. You gotta show that GVSU. Come on, we're from Grand Rapids, bro. You gotta show that GVSU support.
Bro, one, he's from Muskegon, and then he reps Cali as well. So like listen, whatever, bro. He wrestled at GV. That's great. Listen, I'm gonna keep it a buck with Tony first. But before we go to Chandler and Connor, he shouldn't be coaching tough. I think Tony should be retired at this point. It is what it is. He's washed. The CT is kicking. You can tell like his brain isn't there in interviews. It's not there when he fights. It's worrying. I'm saying that for the man's health. I'm not trying to diss the man. He's just not there. He shouldn't be coaching a season of tough. I think a him and Connor fight sells less than a him and Chandler fight. Because
Oh yeah,
for us as purists, We know Michael Chandler, the world level, multi-time world champion, mixed martial arts. Now everybody gets to see the dry personality of Michael Chandler. Not dry in a bad way. I mean dry as in like he's articulate
compared to Connor.
compared to Connor. He's articulate. He studies. He's very, very articulate talking about the fight game. But also Michael Chandler doesn't really make jokes. He's very serious. He's very dedicated to his craft. And then you're gonna have Connor the showman, where Connor, you don't know what you're gonna get with Connor. Connor might be smashing a cell phone. Connor might be smashing a model. Connor might be smashing something, a window with a dolly. Connor smashing something. You just don't know what you're gonna get with Conor McGregor. And now that he's on the steroids, you don't know what you're gonna get with Conor McGregor. It's perfect TV in my opinion. You got two guys, two different schools of thought when it comes to the fight game. One's out here getting tatted all the time, partying out in the tropics, and he's earned that. Connor's earned that. Don't get me wrong. It's just the clashing of styles. I love it. I love it more than the Tony Ferguson one. I think it's going to be a better fight as well than the Tony Ferguson fight. But I do think if they were going to put Conor on tough, they missed a chance to re-sign Nate and do Conor versus Nate on tough and give us the third fight.
Yeah, that would actually have been legendary.
That would have sold more than any of these, right?
That would have sold more than anything ever.
Right. Which brings us to the other thing that we
You have like Nate Diaz like coaching his guys while smoking.
No, exactly.
Nate Diaz wouldn't do no coaching either, though.
Yeah, well, you'd be shocked, dude. Have you seen Nate Diaz's coaching stuff? Like,
but that's like, I feel like if he fucks with you, then yeah. But
well, his BJJ coaching, for
like.
example, like Nate Diaz's BJJ coaching, it's just you stay glued to what he's saying. Like he's a surprisingly good coach. He does a lot of stuff at Chrome Gracie's academy through Cesar Gracie. But which brings me to the other thing we talked about earlier. All right, this fight we're in February. This fight is 6 months out. Conor has to be in the USADA testing pool for 6 months, and he's not in there yet.
He's being jacked, bro.
Bro, listen, the amount of estrogen blockers this man is pumping into his body right now after signing that contract, man. He's taking.
He looks like these transgenders at the fucking gym.
Bro, he is taking more dick pills than John Jones and Anderson Silva put together right now. I'm just. It is what it is. Yes, Conor's on steroids. This is the thing. I need everybody listening to understand something. Conor McGregor is not the Conor McGregor you remember from 6 years ago. The guy got the game passed him by style-wise because he stopped fighting and tried to do boxing and sell whiskey and all that. So the man had to take a bunch of steroids to try to beef up to a level he could compete at because he couldn't do featherweight, right? That's for the casual.
I think wasn't it something to do with his injury though?
Yeah, it started with the injury, which
heal that injury faster.
Yeah, which he says that Dustin didn't cause. I don't know. I saw a bunch of leg checks. So I mean, you tell me.
They said that he had like a fractured MRI from before the fight.
Yeah, tell that to Dustin Shin. That's all I'm gonna say.
I still don't count that fight.
I mean, Dustin was winning that fight regardless. Like before the stoppage.
He was winning before stoppage, but
listen, Dustin Poirier is a great striker, but at one point Conor was miles above him as a striker, which begs the question: what happened to Conor? You know, Conor McGregor, the legend of Conor McGregor, which is something eventually I do want to make a video talking about, like the whole thing. The man never defended the title. He earned his title shot at Aldo, never gave Aldo a rematch, never defended the featherweight belt, lost to Nate Diaz right after, then rematched Diaz, fought Floyd, fought Eddie Alvarez, didn't defend the lightweight belt, loses to Khabib. He's all over the place. Yes, he sells. Yes, he's entertaining to watch. But legacy-wise, like, I think Conor's getting to the point where, I'm sick of Conor. I'm sick of Conor McGregor and the legend people throw around him. He's not a top 5. No. He is not a top 5 fighter of all time. That people like to put him up there. He is not. He is one of the most influential fighters of all time, if not the most influential. But in terms of greatness, where's Conor's greatness? The double champ thing was a sham. You're not the champ until you defend the belt, in my opinion. So, to not defend the belt, to then fight Nate Diaz at 168 and lose, it's not cute. Oh, he beat Donald Cerrone when he came back. Dude, Donald Cowboy Cerrone doesn't move his head, and he was a CTE zombie at that point. It is what it is. It is what it is. We gotta say it for what it is.
Dang, you called him a CT.
We gotta say it for what it is. Donald Cerrone, for all his good things he has, does not move his head and stop being a good fighter after he beat Alexander Hernandez. It just
So for this Chandler fight, do you like it at 170 or do you think it should have been at 155?
I think at 170 it's good for Connor, obviously, because he's bigger now. I think it's gonna be even better for Chandler. Because yes, Chandler's short-ish.
I don't know. I would say that. I would say lightweight was better for Chandler. I think welterweight. I think that has better, like, more weight means his punch is gonna have more power. He has a better chance of turning his lights out.
Yeah, but at the same time, Chandler at 170 is a scary proposition for how strong he is, dude.
Did he fight 170 in Bellator?
I don't know if he had any fight. He probably did had some fights at 170. I know. Here's the thing though. He trained with Kamaru for the longest, and him and Kamaru like that was his sparring partner was Kamaru. So he's used to like training with 170 pounders, and his level of wrestling like it could cause a problem for Connor if you got a guy that big and that talented trying to grapple. You know, like I'm not saying
Yeah, it gives me Chad Mendes. It gives me Chad Mendes vibes.
yeah, yeah, kind of. I mean, to be fair, Chad was piecing him up before he gassed out in that fight too. So I mean,
So I'm saying it's gonna be. I think something similar. I think Chandler's winning, and if he doesn't put him away, then I think Connor finds. I just don't see Chandler putting away Connor. Like I just can't see a way he finishes him.
I'm gonna be honest with
So
you.
I think if it goes,
I don't, but at the same time, Connor's chin hasn't been the same since. And yes, he only had one fight after he got knocked out by Dustin, but even then, before he broke his leg, Connor looked timid in that. He looked like he didn't know what to do. Like he was just trying to avoid shots. And listen, Chandler might not be a striker, but he finds a way to land. Even if he's getting hit, he finds a way to land. I don't know if Connor.
but he always gets hit. That's the thing. He always gets hit, and if Connor hits him, I think he can put his lights out. He's gotten hit by Charles Oliveira. He's gotten hit by everybody.
Yep,
Uh,
yep.
Gaethje, Poirier, everybody's gotten a good hit shot on him. I just think if Connor gets a good shot, it's just not gonna be good for him.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. Dustin ate Connor shots.
Like Charles Oliveira put his lights out with the hook.
Yeah. But I mean, Dustin ate Connor shots. So
He said that when he hit him, that he was the hardest hit he ever took in his life.
yeah. Well, and Chandler ate Gaethje shots, which says a lot. Because personally, I think Gaethje, in a way, Connor's more accurate. Gaethje hits harder. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's gonna be a great fight. I think this tough season is probably gonna be the most watched one in a probably since Connor and
Yeah, I'm
Faber.
watching. I'm watching every episode because you just
Oh
don't know
yeah,
what you're gonna get.
since
He might.
Connor and Faber, this is gonna be the most watched tough.
What do you think his demeanor's gonna be? He's gonna come braggadocious,
See,
ego, or you think he's gonna come friendly?
that's what I mean by you don't know what to expect with Connor. Are we gonna have the nice Connor that we had for the second Poirier fight, or are we gonna have the out of control Connor for the Habib fight and the third Dustin fight? I don't know. I think with the way Michael Chandler is, I think Connor will be like alpha male trying to impose himself. I don't think he's gonna be extremely disrespectful. But then again, you never know. You never know what's gonna
He's gonna
happen.
be calling him like he's gonna be calling him little fella.
Yeah, yeah. And listen,
Wait, how much?
this might bring out a dark side in Chandler as well. Connor's got a tendency of doing that, just bringing out a dark side in some of the guys he fights or whatever.
Oh, I would love to see that, like the dark side of Chandler getting brought out by Connor,
And
and
here's the
it
thing
turns
with
into like
Connor.
a beef fight.
I've seen how much people have talked about Michael Chandler, like as a dad with him adopting his kids or whatever and stuff. Which personally, I love that he does that. More respect to him. But Connor's already shown that family's not off limits when he talks about fighters.
He's like, you got them little black kids.
And that's the thing. Like it's Connor. You don't know if he's gonna stay there or not. And the thing is, like, the way
Yeah.
Michael Chandler carries himself as a man, as a dad, as all this stuff, like, listen, you don't know. You don't know. I mean, dude, Connor had the nerve to call Habib's wife a towel. Like, that,
He said Dustin Poirier's wife was DMs.
yeah.
And I think she was. Wasn't she really in his DMs
Yeah.
though?
Glove Talk neither confirms nor denies that report. We'll let you look up the screenshots for yourself. Oh, yeah. Shout out Jolie Poirier, man.
His tweet where he's like, "Tough all my sons." It'd be so funny if you like retweets. He like, "You might be my
Yeah,
son."
and then Michael Johnson retweeted all my grandchildren because he beat Dustin Poirier. Which, um, which is fun fact for all you listening. Michael Johnson is the only person to ever drop Kamaru Usman that's not named Leon Edwards.
Yep.
That's insane,
Michael Johnson. Hey, I'm telling you, I want to see if Gaethje loses this Fatigue fight. I want to see that rematch, bro. I don't know
bro.
why.
Did Gaethje get his nose fixed or not? Finally, like.
I mean, he's fighting, so I guess he probably. I think he did.
I don't know. I'm be honest with you. If Gaethje loses to Fiziev or whatever, it might be curtains for him being a the league fighter. I'm gonna be honest with
Yeah, it's gonna be tough because you got what he has lost some with Poirier. He has lost to
you. Charles, he has lost to
Oliveira.
Habib.
I think he would lose to Beneil. I don't think he could beat Beneil. I don't think he could beat Darzukian.
Yeah,
And nobody wants to talk about him.
yeah,
He's like, he's probably next in line after Beneil, I think.
yeah, yeah.
But I think that's all the topics we have for this for episode one. We got to redo it, but we got it in for y'all.
Listen, man,
It's Glove
everything for the
Talk.
fans, for the content, for the culture. That's what we're here for. Man. Keep tuning to us.
Peep the
Keep
Instagram.
tuning into ESPN Plus. Go watch USC. Go watch Bellator. Go watch PFL. Keep watching the greatest sport in the world. Man. All you can do is learn and enjoy it. Seriously.
And if you like the video, drop a like, share that motherfucker. Go subscribe on Instagram. We post memes on Instagram. We post
Hey,
reels.
speaking of a meme, fun fact: Conor McGregor has a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under John Kavanagh. How much of that proper whiskey money went towards buying them? If Conor McGregor's a
What do you
brown,
mean,
no,
bro?
no,
You got
no. If Conor McGregor's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, bro, I have a red belt in capoeira, bro, red rope, whatever. No, no, bro. Conor's Jiu-Jitsu is like me trying to do squats on deadlifts. No, no. All right, I just needed y'all to know that. Like John Kavanagh teaching
all right.
jujitsu, bro, is like a blind person trying to teach you how to do crosswalks, bro. That's all I gotta say on
Yeah,
that. Yes, John Kavanagh, I'm coming right
we
at you.
gonna
You suck as a coach. Anyway,
we're gonna leave it at that. That was the first episode. We'll see y'all for episode number 2 on Sunday.
tune in
Peace.
next Sunday, yo.